There we go.
Ed Latimore, best-selling author, former heavyweight boxer, physics major, Army bomb electronics guy. What the heck? All the way from Pittsburgh, man. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I always appreciate when people like cover my bio because there's stuff that I forget. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that is what I did in the Army. Like no one's ever mentioned that. I mean, well, not bombs, but like I worked on electronics and ordnance officially is like what they call it,
Ordnance,
the
man.
ordnance.
You know, because they say, look, what's the difference between civil engineers and electrical engineers? Right?
Oh, it's
Electrical
this.
engineers, they make the bombs, and the civil engineers make the targets.
That's a great joke. I'm gonna start putting that one in there. But I remember one of the things that stood out to me. I mean, I know I'm on your show, but one of the things that really stood out to me, I think it was the first thing I messaged you was I noticed that your initial training is in meteorology.
Right.
And I always thought that was so like I tell Ann all the time, I'm like, if I go back to school, it'll be for meteorology. If I ever decide I want to go back and then study it, I think it's such a fascinating science.
Well, you have the right major. Like I didn't realize I was going to do it. That was kind of a stage 2 of my Air Force career. And, I was at the Air Force Academy, did not know what I wanted to do. I was recruited for football. And we didn't have any money. So I just wanted to go somewhere I wouldn't go in debt, right? And keep playing ball. And towards the end of my sophomore year, this colonel grabs me and says, "You have to declare a major this week." I was like, oh. And I'm looking around because, like, regardless of what you major in the academy, you could be English, history, whatever. You're taking all the engineering, you're taking calculus, you're taking physics, taking chemistry. You take one of everything: civil, mechanical, electrical, astro, aero, on and on and on and on. Right. So,
wow.
So you have a deep understanding of math and science and engineering. And so I was fine at it. I just wasn't motivated. Right. So I'm like, what's the easiest major? And they're like, geography. Like, geography, I'll do that. I like maps, So then after I graduated, or they're like, hey, you want to go to more schooling? Like, we'll send you to Texas A&M, where I'm from. Right. I'm like, for another year paid school. I'm like, send me, baby. Oh my gosh. It's all thermodynamics. I had to take Calc 3 at the junior college because I didn't have it. Then I had to take differential equations in the first semester, and those were prereqs. So I'm taking these while I'm in the classes where I need to have this stuff.
That's like the basic math they make us take. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd be fine. You'd step right into meteorology, man. It's all math, physics.
The goal initially when I went back, because I don't know like how much you know about how I ended up, because I didn't graduate until I was 33. I went back to school when I was, I guess 29. I went back, and it was really part of this whole change in my life, because up until then, I really had just been focused on fighting. And this is kind of silly because amateur fighters don't get paid anything. I got extraordinarily lucky on a few different fronts. I figured out how to get unemployment. I figured out I actually had a legit job. And then when it stopped, I focused on fighting until my unemployment ran out. And then there was this interim between when my unemployment ran out and when I got recruited by this program out in Los Angeles that was effectively my sponsor. And that interim was like, it was like 5 months, maybe. It wasn't too bad, but it was getting there. I had some interesting jobs on that point, but the time period out in LA, the sponsorship paid me like so in straight cash, it was like $4,000 a month. But they also paid for my schooling, not my schooling, my housing, and my food. So it was a really great deal. And then that stopped, and I had to figure out what I was going to do, because I know where the fighter's graveyard is. And it's like, where guys have a good career. You don't make a lot of money even if your career is good. It's got to be like great to really make a lot of money in fighting. And I was like, I'm too cool to be a guy who's only making like 15 an hour. Like I just feel like I had more ability and potential. So I'm looking around at everything and I said I got to go back to school. I didn't have any money. And that's what ultimately led me to enlist so I could get money to go to school. And when I got out of school, I knew I would have to like miss some classes because of the way fighting works.
Mm.
And so I was trying to avoid the hard sciences, but do something in math because all the job satisfaction, highest paying jobs I had math, and I was like, all right, this makes sense. Well, that didn't really quite work out because when I went to Fort Lee, my MOS the first 6 weeks we had to take my basic mechanical and electronic theory, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is what I want to do. I'm gonna like figure this out and make it work, electrical engineering. So I started the course to do electrical engineering, and as part of those prereqs, you have to take physics. And in physics one, we do an experiment with kinematic motion, which is kinematic motion, I guess, which is where a projectile is under no other force but its initial projection, acceleration, and gravity. And I did that experiment. The particle, or in that case, was just like a little steel ball bearing, landed where I said it would land my calculations, and I was like, oh shit, this is magic. This is what I really want to study. And I found a school that actually had a dual program for engineering and physics, and got into it from community college. I started at community college and transferred. And then when I was like halfway done, like literally like more than halfway, probably like 100 credits ish I had in, I started really figuring out the internet and making money online and doing things like that. And I said, well, I'm the odds of me ever being an engineer are really small. I really enjoy this. It lets me write and lets me express, let me do what I want. But I'm too far in to be foolish enough to quit. So I just took my physics BA and left, which is still like, I mean, it's a lot of math, like a lot of math, a lot of science.
Mm-hmm.
I really sometimes I think about how much I know, and I realize that the average person doesn't even know what they don't know. And I'm like
No.
aware of what I know I don't know because I did so much, and it's
What's it
crazy
called?
thing.
Like the Dunning-Kruger?
Yeah, exactly. Where those people are the loudest. Those people are the most abrasive, and they think their opinions are right. And I just look and I go, at least think about it. Give me something to work with here in your opinion. But it's just there's this entire generation, and actually I don't even think it's a generational thing. I think it's just part of where
Oh,
we are
it's
today,
human.
where people yelling making
So,
their point make
so,
stronger.
all right. So I've done jujitsu 5.5 years. I can ruin a lot of people's day. You were a heavyweight boxer. You can ruin a lot of people's day. How often do you find yourself you're saying, I'm just going to excuse myself from this conversation, or I might end up in prison?
You know what's real cool about fighting, especially the level I got to, and that's not just an external metric, though that's obvious both my amateur and professional career, but also my understanding of the sport and how to move my body, how to throw a punch, really the mechanics of fighting and the mindset of it that goes on with it. I totally I would never engage a person because I could easily kill them. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, you get your tough guys making that exaggeration. All you got to do is look on the news and see stories of guys. You throw a shot and they hit their head. That's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
My punch in and of itself probably won't kill you, but if you're not expecting it, and you won't be because I know how to throw my punches short and powerfully, they're going to put you down, and you may die when you hit the ground. And then I'm looking at a manslaughter charge.
Well,
If the DA is nice.
and you were a professional, so there's like a whole nother level. Like I'm an amateur, so maybe they give me some latitude, but it's like 5.5 years of jujitsu, like 6 days a week. Like I don't dabble in this thing. right? And I'm a big dude. I'm 235. And there's some guys, there's a black belt I train with, really cool dude, that also did a lot of striking, Muay Thai, and he'll just goof off some days. And I realize, oh man, like there's a whole nother level. Like there's like
Very
7 levels above me, and I'm 27 levels above just some dude walking down the street, with his iPhone and fancy pumpkin spice latte mouthing off.
It's crazy. Like, and you see this in all the sports. And I didn't realize that I was like, because it's kind of cool. Like there are these videos you can watch on YouTube where it's like, take the best college player, or not even the best, like a good college player, and put him against like a really like the worst NBA player, and just mops the floor with them. And you don't realize like how big that differential skill is. And I didn't really think about mine that way, because in boxing you always get hit and you're aware of being hit. So it's not like you reach a point where you're like some type of samurai master and nothing touches you. But I've been teaching lately boxing. I've been going down to the local gym my friend owns, and just seeing different guys at different levels. And I'm like, wow. There are just little things that I consider vital, that not only do I consider vital, but are so automatic that I don't think about them, that I have to teach them and have them train into their nervous system. Like I was teaching, in some clinch work fighting, like inside, and when you fight on the inside, you're close, so you're vulnerable to uppercuts and things like that. But what you learn over time is that if you just take a little turn of your shoulder and use that to create just a little space, he might be able to use that space to get a little more momentum behind the punch, but you're off angle, and then you'll be able to feel that, so you'll know when it's coming. And that's one of those things that, like, it's so subtle, but watch these guys spar who have amateur, like a lot of amateur fights, whatever, but not quite there at top level comp. And it's like, oh wow, that is just years muscle memory at a high level against tough guys. And then you come back down, you're like, oh wow, you took the weights off, and everybody can move around really quickly. It's really cool to see, though. That's like the best part about this coaching thing I'm doing now in my spare time, which is seeing and knowing that eventually it'll come together, and then figuring out the best way to kind of get it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people they don't stick with anything long enough, because it's like, even in jiu-jitsu, like I tell guys, there's a thing called a Darce choke, right? And it's a specific dive under, grab one arm is hooked, and the head, and they kind of come around
on the gi on the one side. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you don't even need a gi. You can just use your arms. And it's a sneaky choke. And there's two guys that are like super good at it. One's a black belt, one's a brown belt. But they're smaller than me. So that helps a lot, right? Because they're a higher level than me. But I can feel it coming, and I am defending them well on that choke. But I can't teach it. After 5.5 years of just go, I've got some muscle memory, but I don't know it. I'm not an expert. I can't teach the defense. I can't even teach the attack very well, but I'm feeling it.
But you know when it's coming.
Yeah, I feel it. It's like the old Supreme Court years ago, right? Like defining pornography. They're like, you know it when you see it. Well, nice judge, but we need something written. But it just takes so long, and nobody wants to master anything, right? Like I'm checking you out online, 78,000 followers on Instagram, 191,000 on Twitter. I'm following your organic traffic. What are you doing on your website? It was like 60,000 a month.
Organic, yeah, we're like 60,000 right now, organic a month.
I mean, these are huge numbers.
And it takes so long.
I mean, you've got a course. I bought your course on Twitter. You've got your book on stoicism. You've got reports on pornography. I mean, you're hitting everything. How what has that grind been like? Is it similar to your boxing grind?
Well, so everybody, here's the thing. Everyone wants the immediate one-to-one. They want to do a thing and then see the outcome immediately. And then this is why you see a lot of guys who navigate to social media and will build their socials up, but when it comes to building a website, it takes long. This is really the appeal of like Medium and Substack, which is you immediately pop in and there's a network right there. You don't have to build anything up and they're already there. This is different, right? A website and SEO is a different animal because you don't even know if you did the right thing, or in terms of feedback, organically at that, you don't know for 2 months, 2 to 3 months usually. Now there are some exceptions. Like I have such EAT, expertise, authority, and trust on a few topics to where I'll put the post out, and once Google kind of figures out what the post is about, they'll give me the benefit of a doubt and just post it up in like the top and let people sort it out. It's like that when I write about pornography, relationships, mathematics, and boxing. Those are like the 4 areas of my site. The way Google seems to treat it, I have in great authority. But that took years of writing other articles.
Did you know you wanted to do that? Did you have this 5, 7, 10, 15-year plan when you started?
I knew that I wanted a website that had a lot of traffic. That I knew because there are very few truly passive income vehicles in the world, like where you can like. I used to tell Anna when we went to we lived over in Portugal for a little bit, and before we went, I said, "All right, I was doing the math as if I'd have to take care of both of us. Literally, I know her business would take off as well, but I said, all right, what's the worst case? When I was factoring worst case, I was calculating what would happen if I fell into a coma for 30 days. Like I can't make any social media posts, write anything. What would my income look like? And when it reached the point, I was okay, that's good passive. And that's what a website allows you to do. And I think it might be the only form that lets you, or the only way to let you do it with, okay, so it's not no money down. There's some money to set up your hosting and get your domain and all that. But the general idea, passive, and I wanted that. I understood the and I think everybody wants this, the power of making money without doing something to do it all the time. And it's not like life-changing numbers, but it I can survive on just passive income if I wanted to. And the goal is to just continue to grow. Plus, on top of that, let's forget the income aspect of it. This website continues to bring in opportunities and expose me to people. And like I was telling you before the call, I'm working on my book proposal. And what I've done, one of the things that's really attractive is I've built my platform. Like this is Ed Latimore's platform. They don't have to worry. Like if I get blanked off of Twitter, they're not going to be like, oh, what are we going to do with this guy? Like, no, I still have the website and the email signups and all that. And that's really the beauty of it, the autonomy and the passivity. And I
Well, and
always wanted that.
That's the dirty little secret of publishing too, is that these book companies, these publishers, dude, they expect you to have your own market.
Yep.
People think, oh, I got this great idea. They're just going to see it. They're going to just jump all over me, give me a fat, retainer. No, they're not.
Let me tell you something, man. I'm actually in an actual class right now, put on by an agent. And I don't even know how you'd find these classes. I got referred to it by one of her clients, and every lesson is a different part of the proposal, and we have homework due to bring in. And let me tell you something that continues to stand out. It is exactly what you said. And the only thing more important than your platform, the only thing are your credentials, and those go back and forth depending on the platform. But what they want to see, they want to know that if they put money into you, give you an advance, because and that's all they're really going to do. They're not even going to until the book starts selling copies. They're not even going to really put money behind the marketing on it. They want to know that you have something in place to make this thing work. It's kind of like a loan from a bank, right? Yeah, you only get a loan if you can kind of demonstrate you don't need it. Like, and it's just like that. It's like, well, do you really need us? Oh, you need us for the clout. All right, so we'll bring and we'll give us that. We'll give you that clout and some money up front, so you can write the best product and make it edited. Because my second book was self-published, and I paid. Well, both of them were, but the second one I had money, and it's a cleaner, nicer product. But it's not nearly as clean and as nice as it would be if I went to a publishing house with the big money. So they want to know you're a worthwhile investment. And the best way to show that, I can do numbers. People listen to me. I'm connected. I speak in front of people. I have a website. I have a platform.
How did you make the entry into social media? Because you got a big following. You throw out some crazy stuff. Coffee so black, drinking it makes you late for everything. I mean, what? Walk
Gotta
me
have
through
fun
that evolution.
So when I first started using social media, I remember that I realized there is tremendous value in having an audience. I've always understood that they reach. Even in my rudimentary understanding of business before I was forced to learn a lot more moving into the space I'm in now, I always understood that the more people you can reach, the more people you'll sell to, and the more money you'll make. And when I was, because I've been doing the social media thing since before I got into my website and everything. It was back when I was fighting, and my thought process was, if I put together a social media following, it'll help me with my fight career. There's no, in other words, there's no disadvantage to having an audience, no matter what you're trying to do. I mean, unless you're trying to do some shady shit or something like that people should know about. Okay,
like crack.
Right, like crack. You don't need an audience for crack. You go smoke crack, but I said, okay, what's the best way to go? And Facebook was the platform that most millennials got into, me being no different. But Twitter is like a late millennial thing, and I had a buddy who was using Twitter to great effect, and I said, okay, I want to try this out. And I actually asked him, I said, hey, can you manage my Twitter account? Now, he did some shady stuff. He was using like a follow unfollow bot. And once I realized what it was and how messed up it was, I said, chill out. And then I went and unfollowed like all of this stuff, and then went and followed the people I thought were interesting, just started interacting with them, and just continue to grow. And that's just the mechanics of it. I mean, that's how anyone should do it. I believe what has really worked in my advantage, and what I try to lean into is I've got a life outside of social media. Like I'm not one of those guys that just got on the internet and decided I would be like a copywriter or a marketer, and I would also write or like try to be a thought leader. There are a lot of guys that put out these posts about productivity and discipline and focus, but there's nothing in their lives outside of the internet to demonstrate living those principles. I think if you go and look in my life, there are tons of real tangible things you can Google independent of me, and see that's done. That's how I live. That's what my experience has been. So from a technical aspect, I just wanted to get on and use social media to do what social media does, which is reach out. And then from a strategic standpoint, it's all about just being me. That's why my website is edlatimore.com, as opposed to like boxing or chess or crack jokes or anything like that. It's whatever I'm interested in at the time, and I try and dive deep into it and write and learn about
it. So what's the focus or the game plan now, right? You got a big newsletter, you got some physical products you're selling. You got a couple of self-published books. You're working on a book. So like, how are you putting food on the table if you're not doing consulting or things like that?
I'm robbing people, of course.
Well, damn it, sign me up.
So the income sources. So what ends up happening when you have a, this is another thing. No one talks about this. All I have on the internet is a walking, talking, ever growing and evolving resume. Jobs find me. Now I make it clear kind of what I do, which is, social media and SEO consulting, and that either dives into the content aspect or the algorithm aspect. And typically, if you're doing a good job, you hit both, but sometimes a person is deficient in one or the other. So there's a lot of that. That is like, especially this year, that's really been the heavy hitter in my bank account, working with people to help them grow their website and their social media. In addition,
is that one-on-one, or is it like group things? I know you've got some products like
it's been a one-on-one, but what I'm working on now is a group offering, because one thing I've learned is people are kind of bad at writing. And
people are terrible at writing.
And look, the posts aren't there anymore, but or they've been modified as I've grown and learned. But I was bad at writing too when I started this. One of the two things that made a really big difference, and the one no one wants to hear, the one that everyone wants to hear and they figure is, I practiced and wrote a lot. The website's got, I think, 200 articles at this point. I've got over 100,000 tweets and newsletters and emails sent. Lots of practice. And I also consume a lot of other writers, and I see what works and what I like to try and what I want to integrate. So that part people understand, they get. The other thing that really made me a much better writer, I mean, we're talking like levels. My degree, that training in physics, the way I had to learn to think and then communicate in labs and express and make my points, that and then the sheer amount of scientific material they had us read, because as part of the program we always had to, every physics class you had to do at least 2 American Journal of Physics, read like the discoveries and kind of answer questions that the professor had. And these weren't like easy to answer questions. Even though it's science, it was like, what do you think of this? Why or yay or why or not? Why or why not? Or I remember one essay I had to answer was not about a journal in specific, but in my optics class, we all had to answer the question, was the Michelson-Morley experiment, and that's an experiment done in the late 1800s that determined the speed of light was constant in all mediums, that was, or rather independent of frame of reference, the same speed in all frames of reference. Was that experiment the start of modern physics, or was something else? And if you thought it was, you had to explain why and how it related to other discoveries in modern physics. And if you didn't, you had to name what point you thought and deliver that. Now you also you would still have to talk about other experiments no matter what one you went, because you would ultimately have to show how the other experiments were not the start. But that type of clarity on science, that makes you more clear for other things. And then I think the thing that also improved me, the secondary, I tutored physics and math high schoolers almost 4 years. It was the job I took when I lost my fight and I got cut from all my promoters, but I still needed to go to school. So I ended up tutoring kids in physics. And physics is hard because you can't just, memorize your way through it. You have to learn how to think. So now I got to think about how I think and how I got through things, and then get another person to be able to do it independently of me. And all these things made me a better communicator because writing stands on its own. And then it helps me look at what works and what doesn't, test all that. So that's the big that's like the big bulk by consulting there. Then because I'm so cool and interesting and I've had this great life, every now and then I'll get a guy who wants me to just work with him directly on some of his like issues, largely with addiction, and then some of the things that come with that. Because I'll be 9 years sober this December, and my second book is about helping people cope with the emotional, I guess, turmoil that goes through it. Everyone tells you about the physical, and everyone tells you how the social, you'll lose some friends. I did not get any advice on how to deal with a lot of the thoughts and feelings I had, particularly as I reflected on my behavior while under the influence from a sober mind. And so I put that together, and I'll get people to come in through that. And those are the things that are the big income makers. And I use that income to give me time so I can work on, now I have a clear idea what I want to write and do with my book and what I'm doing with the website. And I still haven't figured out kind of my big contribution to humanity. But the little one right now is really, if people need help getting sober, I am like the guy to talk to. At least I think I'm the guy to talk to, because I've got real experience doing it. You see some of these. That's a different argument. I was going to talk about some of my some beef I have with the general therapy industry, largely that it's a lot of kids. I mean, let's be honest, people under 30 who get out of school and are helping people navigate problems. And I'm like, what have you possibly gone through to give you a perspective and absorb the lesson? Because I don't want to say that like a person hasn't gone through things, but I genuinely believe you need both time to get knocked around in life and time to learn the lesson and then integrate that fully into living. And that says nothing for what it takes to be a teacher and guider with that information. All that takes time. And I just think if you're fresh out of school at 26, you ain't got it.
Mm-hmm.
but that's neither here nor there,
Yeah, there's some meme going around. I was trying to see if I could find it real quick, but it's something like, it says, we are not the same, right? It says, until you go through like, 6 bouts of depression, borderline bankruptcy, 3 horrible breakups, blah, 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 then you can come and talk to me. It's like, damn, like, okay. I'm picking up what you're laying down.
At the very least, at the very least, it's there's a certain level of empathy you need to have, and you can't fake empathy.
Yeah.
You can't even, and I think fake, I won't use the verb fake, because fake, saying that sends the wrong implication. You can't manufacture empathy is a better way to put it. A person can tell by talking to me in 10 minutes when we start talking about addiction that I've been around the block. I know what I'm talking about. There ain't, and on top of that, I had one guy, he was telling me like why he couldn't quit or stuff like that, or no, he was trying to tell me he wasn't addicted. And I'm like, brother, you've been talking to me for 10 minutes. You didn't told me about how every time you get together with your friend, y'all smoke. Your girl is telling you got a problem smoking, and you paid my fee, and you won't really sit here and look me in the face and tell me you ain't addicted. Come on, man. And I can be real with them too. Like, that's the other thing. I'm not, you paid me two grand for 4 sessions. I'm going to be real with you because I don't want to waste your time, and and you damn sure don't want to waste mine.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like, I see it in jiu-jitsu, right? Guys, we'll go into class and an instructor teaches a move. Like, there's certain guys like I'll just avoid. I don't want to drill with them because while we're practicing the moves, they're telling me why that move won't work for them. And I'm like, fool, practice the move. Practice, because granted, not, my instructor, he's only like 5'10", 165. I'm 6'2", 235. Okay. Yeah, not all moves are the same, but I'm gonna drill it.
It's funny you're talking about jiu-jitsu. I started reading this book.
About
Rickson Gracie, and I started reading it as research for my book, and I'm just fascinated. You know, he talks about how his grandfather was the perfect poster child for the sport when they started promoting it, because one of the arguments that the jujitsu players would make is that it's about intelligence, positioning, sensitivity of moves over brute strength, and who better to demonstrate that than a guy who, I think he said he was like 5'6", 145. Like, who better to demonstrate that?
Well, that's why they sent Hoyler, right? So I trained under Hoyler's school, and Hoyler's not a big guy, and because some of the other Gracies, the older brothers, were a little bit bigger.
Great athletes, yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, it's not jujitsu. They're just big, strong athletes. So he sent Hoyler. He says, all right, I'll send the smallest one I got, and he'll still kick your ass. And he did. And they're like, okay, maybe this stuff's legit.
It's humbling, man, because people are very we think linearly a lot of times, and until you have enough experience getting your ass kicked or being surprised by non-linear or asymmetrical inputs and outputs, you don't realize how weak that is. For example, we think bigger is better, right? If I'm strong, let's get as strong as I can be, and the strongest guy should be the next strongest guy. And that holds up great if you're like scuffling on the street and either of you are skilled. But then you step into the ring, and the guy with great technique, little wiry dude who's like, barely a welterweight, is going to put you on your ass because he knows how to turn his body. I believe the phrase is kinetically link. His kinetic linking is on point every turn, and so his punches put you down. And you're like, how did this happen? I can't generate power. One of the most humbling things that happened to me when I lost the round I lost and as an amateur in the national championship was against a guy named Donovan Dennis. Waxed me 5-0. And this is after I had beat Dominic Brazil, who went on to represent us in the Olympics that year. So in 2012. And Dominic's like 6'7". Like, I think he was like 280 when we fought, man. That's like a big man. And I'm a big man compared to regular people. I'm a small man compared to heavyweight boxers. And I'm fighting Donovan, and Donovan's more my size, but everything every punch was like laying the wood. I had never fought somebody who I'm looking at and I go, I should be able to work you over. And everything he dropped was heavy. And I said, wow, that is a lesson. And I made sure I learned that lesson going forward, because it was his technique. It was beautiful to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you get faced with excellence, right? It's either going to destroy you, right? Because you might think, I put in all this effort and I still got that much to learn, like, never mind, right? Or it'll fire you up, right? Like, hey, I've already learned this much and I still have a lot more to learn. Okay, let's keep going.
You see this all the time in fighting. Guys will go and face somebody. They've been walking through everybody, and then they go against somebody because they weren't progressed properly. The psychology of a fighter is really important. The development of a fighter is important, and they jump him. This is like one of the worst hustles in the sport, but it is what it is. You get a guy who's been fighting on these local shows, and he's probably like marginally better than everyone, or even much better than everyone locally, and goes like 12-0, 13-0 with 12 knockouts. And so he gets a call to the big show to fight somebody. This got money and backing, had the proper career, proper development. And they tell him, you beat this guy, you're in the game now. You're in the game. And he goes, and they can market this fight now too. This is two undefeated fighters. They can market this. They can sell this to the network if they want to. They can move tickets. But they know, these are smart guys running boxing. They know what they're doing. This guy don't have a chance because he ain't really been tested. He got a bunch of paper wins, as we'll call them. Opponents, moved along. And rather than move up gradually, he had to take a shot and gets walked through after he'd been walking through everyone else. And now his psychology is studied because most people don't understand what I just said. fighters especially. Instead, they think there's something that they're just shook. They're done. You know?
Yeah. I remember my first little in-house tournament. Went down to San Diego to Oilers gym, and there's hundreds of people, man. They are in an in-house tournament. You're just doing it like at your own. Imagine,
Yeah.
like your own little gym. Imagine having 2 rings, and not even rings, because it's like everybody's
Because it's in
right
a
there.
gym. Yeah, we've done these in boxing. Yeah, or an amateur anyhow.
Yeah, and but in jiu-jitsu, you don't have ropes. We just have tape on the floor, so everybody is like right there yelling in your face. Oh, it's so chaotic. But so I was still a new white belt, and there was a guy who was a purple belt. He's a black belt now. He was in the Marines. He just retired from the Marines. He's a firefighter, bodybuilder. This dude is a machine. He studies a little bit of judo, so he's got some good takedowns. And I watched him lose 14-0. I was like, wait a minute. That dude destroys me while making a ham sandwich, man. And I'm like, and how can he, like, I'm like, I know everybody can lose. I would expect him to lose 2-0, 14-0. I was like, this is a whole new world, man.
Like, what happened? Right.
There's always somebody bigger and better, right? And he wasn't bummed. He's like, because it's not our lives, right? We just do this on the side. But he had the right attitude. He's like, I'm gonna learn from this. Keep on keeping on. How do people, like right now, interest rates are up, stock market's going down, on and on and on, all this prediction of crap. And some people might be going through some hard times. How do you keep your head in the game, right? When you're getting those punches and you're like, whoa, I was not ready for this.
You are ready, but as long as you're in the game, you can win the game. Uh, in theory, right? I know there's, freaking social media has got me thinking about the pedantic counter response to everything, but as long as you're there, you have a chance, right? But we don't want to rely on the hope, but we want to lay that down as a foundation, just so you understand that it's not like a video game. You're not going to die. It's life. These problems, for the most part, won't kill you, but they will. They do demand a very immediate adjustment and response, right? And that adjustment is not just tactical, what you do. It's also strategic, how you think about the situation. If you're dealing with your rough finances for whatever reason, well tactically, you've got to do a few things. One, you got to patch the holes in the bucket. That means stop spending on anything you don't need. Two, then you got to go make a lot more money, and maybe not a lot more, but look, if that means taking a second job, take a second job. If that means a little side hustle, that means you better get your ass up and side hustle. If that means getting a roommate, get yourself a roommate, if you can, right? I talked to so many people from my background, where I'm from and where I live, and they're like, oh, I can't live with roommates. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You don't have any money. Like, what is wrong with you? But that's the tactical part. You start taking care of that, and then you change how you think. And I can I'll use myself as an example. I used to be unbelievably bad with money, and that's a big problem. Like okay, when you have money, you can be bad with it as long as there's a flow. When you don't have money, you don't have the margin of error to be bad with it. And that is not just what you spend, it's some of the decisions you make. I'll never forget, I was 23 and I got the second boot on my car. I got it in November. And if it wasn't for a friend bailing me out and loaning me $123, that took me like 4 months to pay back, I would have not had a car, and I would have owed the city. And then you fast forward, you would think I learned. No, still wasn't paying parking tickets, still got booted again. I'm not learning. I'm getting surprised by these problems. Our traffic, or the car might break down because I thought I could skimp on the oil change. things like that. You start realizing a little bit of prevention goes a long way. Stuff like that. I really, I knew that if I took care of what I ate, the odds of me getting sick and having to miss work or going to work miserable were just they just increased. If I could uh if I could work someplace where I walked, I would not have to spend money on gas, or if I was willing to take the bus, if I could get roommates, things like that. These are little gradual improvements in my thought process. But what I'm doing in that instance is I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm imagining the worst thing, and then I'm figuring out how to avoid that with as much room, with as much room for opportunity as possible. Right? That's what you try to do, because if
Well,
you're
but
super conservative,
those little things though, people underestimate. I've always said we overestimate what we can do in a year, but underestimate what we can do in 3 to 5 years. Because all these
and
little things add up.
they all add up. When I was living in Los Angeles with my $4,000 a month pay, I could have by this point I had learned a few lessons. I could have been balling out, right, for the 18 months I was out there. I'd have been the king of LA, right, and not even really with that little bit of money. But a few of the guys I was out there with, they were like that. They couldn't understand why I was paying down some debt on my credit report, and they couldn't understand why what the car that I finally got was this little, very non-impressive Hyundai. It was some type of Hyundai. It was small and cheap though. But let me tell you, when I got cut from the program, that car drove me back from LA. Easy. That car was pretty much, that car lasted until I got T-boned on Cinco de Mayo. But by that point, it was funny. That week, Cinco de Mayo 2018, I got T-boned. And that week, I had my best month really ever at that point online. So I was able to go buy a new car. But I didn't have to worry about cars because I had I had put the money in little by little to my credit was good enough to get some type of cheap loan, got a good loan, took care of that car, and it was all good. And then you pay your insurance so that if
People
something
get
really
so
goes wrong,
caught up. I remember a guy years ago. He said, once you start making money, don't let people spend your commission. I was like, what? Because he's saying once you start balling, like you said, guys will go out. Oh, I should get a nicer car. I should have a nicer watch. I should be doing it. Like, not yet.
right,
Not yet. Right. We got a paid off Toyota Sienna sitting in my garage right underneath my feet right now. I got 7 kids, man, and a dog. Now, only like 2 kids are really at home. I mean,
I was just about to ask. I was like, are they all at home? Were they ever so I'm just so
yes,
curious, man.
they were all
So
under
like
the same roof.
at one point, they
At
were
one
all in
time.
the same room.
Yes.
And how old are you? You don't look old.
52.
No kidding. Okay. So like, wow, man, that's crazy. How old's the oldest one?
25.
Oh, all right. See, so well, I mean, that's still busy, man.
There's a 17-year gap from oldest to youngest. So we only had 9 under the roof for like a year, a little over a year, because then Jake went off to college. But my second, he lived at home and commuted to college. So we had him at home till he was 22. My daughter just graduated and got married. So we had her at home until she was 22. My 20-year-old is at San Diego State, but she spent a year at home because of COVID. So we had her an extra year at home. And then I got a daughter about to be 18, but she's graduating early. So she'll graduate in December. So that's why I say, like, of course, I have 3 at home, but I say like 2.5 because she's so busy. She's working, has her own car. She, lives her own life. So we use the van to pick up my mother-in-law, who's legally blind, and her husband's got dementia. So we fit easier in the van, right? And it's like, yeah, I can go buy a big SUV or whatever, but it's like, why? My money I got invested making me money. The friends I have do not care what kind of car I drive.
Right. And
you know?
I think that's one of the best things in life is realizing what's important. Because once you realize what's important, you stop chasing what is not important. And it just so happens that most of the things that are not important consume an incredible amount of resources that could be put towards it's really much, it's zero sum. In fact, I and maybe not exactly, but close enough to where if you treat it like zero sum, you'll make much better decisions
Yep.
in your life. And I think about like the car I have now. I actually just downgraded. I downgraded to a well, downgraded. I got a used hybrid because I was like, well, it's time to save on gas, and we're having our first kid, and I was like, well, we'll make sure we have a car seat and stuff, and this seems like a much better use of my resources to have a very safe car that is gas efficient since kids coming along, and
Hmm.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
having a cheaper car, easier to take care of.
Hell yeah, man. I just sold my truck. I made $8,000 on it because it was just extra. I'm a Texan, so like I gotta have a truck. And I was like, it was just sitting there. I'm like, I sold it and made money. Boom. Now it's making me more money. That money's making me money. So, but it's like, I equate life, to sports. And you're like, we're in a battle, right? If you have faith, then you believe in good and evil. You believe in heaven and hell. You believe God and Satan, right? And like when you look, when like in jujitsu, I'm gonna, feint, right? I'm gonna grab your foot to make you look down there, so I can grab your head. I'm gonna grab your head so you push your foot, so I can attack your foot. So it's, um, um, I'm jabbing so I can set up the big right. I think that's what like the devil's got us. Hey, go focus on this. Go
Yep.
get busy. Go get extensions and nails and lashes and Botox and go get all your happy pills and whatever.
Y-
Like,
you know,
dude, just focus.
and it's funny. I reach a similar conclusion via a different pathway, but I really think that the people who lean on these material things as and have an attachment to them or whatever, I think it keeps them from developing internally and connecting, because ultimately what is important, the most important things are the people in this earthly realm. How we treat people, how we interact with them, and the relationships we build. I think that is of supreme importance on this planet. And if you are worried about trying to appear better than them through material. And it's not like, because look, man, if you really got to drive a Porsche and you just like the way it feels, look, man, go. I get it, right? But that's not usually what the motivation is.
Right.
Right? The motivation is for external approval of people who don't care, which
Yep.
is hilarious.
Yeah. They say we make drives to work we don't want to do to work in a job we hate to make money that basically we can't keep to spend it on things we don't really want or need to impress people we don't even know.
Right. It is a weird life, man. And And I think one of the things that's really taught me this has been the sheer amount of travel I've been able to do in the past 5 years. Because I didn't travel anywhere when I was younger. We were poor as hell and hood as hell. And then through my 20s, more or less the same deal. And it's only recently in the past 5 years I've got to really see a lot of the world, and what continues to just impress me is how little I need to be happy and how little other people need to be happy. Because you go and you see, and it's the company you're with that makes a difference. But then you see people living and happy, content, very different than the United States, I think, in this regard. But you just the community and dinner time and parks and even how they relate to children. I've just observed this differently in many different places, and I'm convinced that happiness comes when you stop chasing things that that can't reciprocate
Yeah.
the emotion that you deliver.
Yep. Amen, man. I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. I'm linking out to everything. So it's edlatimore.com, right? 1T, edlatimore.com. And then from there, we're linking out, but got your Twitter there, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. I've got your Twitter course. I recommend it to people. You got some funny ass mugs. You got a good newsletter.
Love those mugs, man.
You got some funny ass tweets. Just spitting the truth, man. I appreciate it.
So just awesome, keep on. I don't even know how we connected, man, but I'm because we connected on Facebook, and Facebook is a generally a closed loop. They've done a lot better over the past few years, making it a little more like Twitter, and then people get stuff through their feed and then connect to that way. But I no, man, this is a pleasure, man. Very, very awesome. I'm happy you had me on.
If you head west, let me know, man. We'll get together.
You in Texas or California?
I'm in Southern California.
Oh, okay. Like San Diego or even
about an hour north. Yep. But I go to Texas a good bit. What's that?
Or is that Riverside, Oceanside, one of them?
So Oceanside is less than an hour north, and it's on the coast going up to 5. But yeah, if you go up to 15, it takes you a little bit inland. And so I'm south of Riverside and Temecula.
Okay, I know these areas well enough from living out there.
Yep.
You know, I really I absolutely hate Los Angeles.
Oh, dude. Oh, I do. People invite me like a couple weeks ago, Scouts. Hey, you want to go to this networking event? I'm like, where is it? LA. I said, well, A, I don't want to do a networking event, and B, I really don't want to go to LA.
Like exactly. Like, I mean, I don't, but because of the nature of what I do, I don't think anyone will ever offer me a position where I need to like be in a place to do the work. But if they did, it was in Los Angeles, I would absolutely ask for money, and I will be very clear why. And hopefully it'll go, oh, maybe that's not a good fit.
Oh man, it's been years now, but I got contacted by a company and they were right downtown LA.
Oh goodness.
Unfortunately, they didn't need me until they wanted a weekend session. So A, I was going to charge more anyway, and B, it was LA, and I didn't tell them what my prices were. They didn't know like what I would accept, but I had a bottom number, right? And I literally tripled it, and they didn't bat an eye. And I was like, oh shit, I guess I'm going to LA. and that's just a drive, but hell, the weekends are worse than the weekdays a lot of times. Weekends are terrible driving through Southern Cal.
Wherever you get locked in at is where you're going to be. And that's a weird thought because even New York City, which is more dense, is not like that. You can move from Manhattan to Brooklyn in like 15 minutes on the red light. Like it's nothing. But where you're at, like if you're in Santa Monica, you're gonna be in Santa Monica whether you want to be or not.
Or
you're gonna sit in your car for 30 minutes trying to go to the next, just trying to go to someplace in the South Bay. I was not. I really did. I thought, and you know what's funny? When I lived there, I thought I didn't like it because I only knew how to socialize with alcohol. I was still drinking. I went back. I've been back once, I think, maybe twice, but definitely once. I've been back completely sober. Understand, like, living a sober life is great because you look for all these fun things that are. And I said, wow, this city is ugly and congested and ugly.
I know, man. People have no idea. They see the Hollywood sign on movies,
And
Oh,
yeah, and then you go to real Hollywood, and then you got a story about how you got robbed by somebody that didn't even have a
oh,
shirt and shoes.
oh. Well, I'm going to I'm driving back and forth to San Diego this week for a conference and just catching up with some friends. I don't even have a ticket. I'm just going down for dinner and seeing people. And my daughter's new husband is a cop in San Diego, and literally they stayed over last night. And so I said, "Hey, like you know this spot?" He's like, "Yeah, don't go there." I'm like, what? And it's like it's just across the 5 from the convention center. It's at this Shopify is doing a meetup at one of these co-working spaces. He says, "Oh, the co-working." He said, "Yeah, that's okay." I'm like, I got this regular spot that I park, and it's only a few blocks. He says, "No, don't walk down that street." I'm like, "Can I go up and over?" "Don't go down that street either." I'm like, son of a bitch. I just want to walk like 5 blocks. I want to park in one place and go to multiple things. He's like, "Yeah, you can't do that." Oh man, it's like it's
Man,
bad
yeah.
everywhere. It's bad.
Yep,
These things are
it's
bad.
getting crazy, getting crazy. That's one of the things you've had to think about this and deal with this, for way longer than I've had to yet. Because you've got kids, but now I'm like, with my first child coming, we were like, she's a Portuguese citizen, so she can go. I learned the hard way. There's a limit on how long Americans can stay in Europe, and we think it's like you can enter freely, but there's a real limit. But now once I have my residency, we'll be able to like go and relocate. He automatically gets it as her child, and so now I'm like, one of the things that I really got to think about or have been thinking about is, I love being here because this is where all the relationships are that I've built. But I also think about the wanton gun violence that exists, and I get shot. It used to be if I get shot, whatever, right? But now it's like, okay, I mean, she's good and fine with money, but the kid's not gonna have a son, and then I got to think about the kid when he gets older, and I just wish it were a safer country.
Mm-hmm.
But I do what I can and stay out of the danger zones, and hopefully
Yeah,
that's
dude.
enough.
Once you have a family, I remember. So we got married. I was still in the Air Force. They moved us to Biloxi, Mississippi, Keesler Air Force Base. And I'm originally from Baton Rouge. My whole family's from Baton Rouge, and I moved to Texas when I was 12. Um, and so New Orleans and Mardi Gras was a big part of my life. I had my cousin lived in Metairie, and so we stayed at their house every year. We go party for a week, and so I take my so Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is like February ish, and so she gave birth to our son in April, so she's like super pregnant, right? And her friends fly out from Southern California. We're like, we'll go to New Orleans. We'll go to Mardi Gras, right? So like an hour and a half from Keesler. And I'm walking in this crowd. So it's getting dark and it's getting crazy. And I'm like, I'm here with a pregnant wife. This is not smart. I'm like, we're leaving, honey. That was 25 years ago, right? It's like, okay, my life is different. I can't just get drunk and throw beads around for girls to show me their boobies. It's like I gotta go. And it just things change, man. It's like because like we're talking about with fighting, and it just the juice ain't worth the squeeze. It's like I'm gonna let
Yeah,
that guy think he's a winner, because he's not a winner. But if he gets lucky, I'm for sure a loser. So let's just
that's a great way to put that. Yeah, very much so. You never
so yeah,
know.
it
Never
all
know.
changes, man. And hello to 9 p.m. bedtime for everybody.
Yeah. Oh boy, it should be fun, man. I don't know what to say.
uh, well, hey, speaking of jujitsu, that's where I'm going.
All
So,
right,
man,
man.
thanks
Well, very
thanks for
nice to
coming
talk, man.
on.
Thank you.
It was great catching
Not a
up.
problem.
I'll hit you up online when this goes live in like less than 2 weeks, and we will spread the word for Mr. EdLatimore.com.
All right, man. You have a good
Have a
one.
good one.
See ya.